What's up, everybody? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi, Drake.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, where's your mask, bro?
Oh man, what mask are you talking about?
Oh, I'm talking about the real mask that we've been talking about for a while. So I know everyone right now is walking around with masks or contemplating wearing a mask, and Drake and I really want to talk about the real most important mask, which is okay. Remember, like being on an airplane? I know you were just on an airplane.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they say, right, what do they say? In case of loss of cabin pressure, what do you do? Do you assist other people? Do you tell other people to put their mask on first?
No, that wasn't what I heard today.
What did they tell you?
They said you should put your mask on first.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's really what we want to discuss here is looking at your life and understanding what is the real mask that you need to put on, because right now, if you haven't noticed, everybody's operating from fear, from blame, from looking outside themselves to some greater authority, when in reality, we got to look at where is it that we're getting our oxygen, so to speak, so you can be good and be stable within yourself. Because because that's a very worthy and important conversation for us to have. So
yeah.
I know Drake has been on this journey a bit longer than I have to getting to emotional stability, which is really, really priceless. And we were talking about this earlier, and this is something that y'all need to hear. So Drake, how about for you, man? What has been your process of going from like before you put on that mask for yourself, which the real mask we're talking about is getting to be stable and have emotional stability within yourself. Because one, if you're not emotionally stable, well, how are you supposed to actually do anything of any importance in this world? Is that possible?
No, definitely not. Like if you're not emotionally stable, then how do you even go throughout your day, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I remember being very emotionally unstable and feeling like people were constantly criticizing me or attacking me, just putting like this spin on everything that came to me, and feeling
you were putting the spin.
I was putting this spin
Okay.
in my own mind, but I believed it. I thought it was real. I thought,
Like, what's an example?
Just the way that my mom would speak to me.
Okay.
I had this idea of who my mother was,
Mm-hmm.
Based on experiences that, happened in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I filtered everything that she would say through this idea.
Okay, yeah.
Right. And so, she could be saying something, really benign, like, hey, some people are coming over. Maybe you might want to clean this up. And I take it like, oh my God, I can't believe she's telling me what to do again.
Does anyone watching this know that feeling where you like put your filter on what anyone says to you, and right, and then your mind just starts going at it.
And it's interesting because I started going down this path of, just becoming better, learning things about self-improvement, that kind of journey. I think a lot of people go down that journey, right?
Yeah.
And as I was doing that, I was seeing, I need to be more positive, right? And so in my own mind, I was like, well, listen to what all these people are saying, smile, just ignore the things that are bad going on in your life, and just try to just feel positive, feel good about things, and things will work out. And what I realize now, looking back, what I would do is I would feel like this positive emotion and just think about good things and ignore, like I knew there were bad things happening, things that I didn't want to acknowledge, but I just didn't acknowledge them. I ignored them. And then somehow they would get resolved.
Okay.
Somehow these things would get resolved, but really they weren't getting resolved. And I would perceive it as, oh, it's getting resolved, yay.
Yeah, the positive thinking's working.
My problem's taken care of.
Yeah, thanks,
really,
universe.
Yeah, but really it wasn't getting resolved. What I was doing in a lot of those situations was falling back on or relying on someone else, like my mother, to cover something for me.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, well, I don't know how I'm going to pay for this or, do that or whatever. And then all of a sudden, like, a family member would give me money because I asked them. But I'd be like, oh, there's positive thinking working, Yeah. And, looking back now, I see that I was really just avoiding responsibility, abdicating responsibility as much as possible, and just justifying my position, where, somebody would try to reason with me like, hey, you're kind of messing things up for everybody else. You're not taking into consideration someone else. And my justification was, well, that's just too bad. Hey, Cam, you haven't figured out positive thinking for yourself. That was my justification.
Oh yeah.
Not just too bad. It's like, you haven't figured it out.
Yeah. You don't know what I know.
Yeah. You don't know what I know. I know that the universe is taking care of me. And really, it's like the people who are taking care of me are like, hey, dude, I'm tired of taking care of you. Yeah. Can you figure this out?
Yep.
And so, but like I said, I didn't have that emotional stability to actually be on the same, wavelength or conversation with these people. And so I continued to make matters worse for the people around me without, I realized it on some level.
Yeah.
But I just put the blame on them. I didn't take any responsibility for it, right? And so it took me a while to find, through some of the self-improvement, I got connected with Cameron through a cool club, Gin, and I'd met a lot of people through that, but Cameron was someone that, we became friends on Facebook, and I saw years of his life go by, and I saw that drastic changes were happening in his life, and I was like, man, I want that. I want that for myself. And I got on the phone with him, and it was interesting because, he actually was the one person to say to me, look at reality. Like, I know you're a positive thinker, and, is your life actually going any better? And I was like, well, yeah, of course, my life is so much better now. I think of things more positively than I did before, and like, everything's great. And he's like, okay, cool. Sometimes we think, because we want to be positive and, we want things to work out, we actually become just better at deceiving ourselves. So a real good way to measure if you're actually improving in your life is, okay, are you making any more money? Is your living situation any better? Do you have the things that you want? Is your life actually better in the physical world, or is it just in your own mind?
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody could actually get through to me at that time. I wasn't allowing anyone, and he was so direct, and I wanted to hear from him that it really sank in at that moment. Like, oh shit, my life is not any better. Like, I haven't done anything for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And then he was like, well, I'm going to show you how you can change that.
Yeah.
And he showed me Techno Tutor, and I was like, man, that's really cool. And then through that, he also started showing me self-forgiveness as well, and walking this journey of actually taking responsibility, taking on a lot more responsibility, which is something that I was just wanting to avoid at all costs before then. And now I'm, much more realistic about things. I'm still like a happy guy, but I'm not ignoring or just trying to avoid what the reality is. I acknowledge it. I see it for what it is, and it doesn't bother me. Instead, I look at it and I'm like, okay, I know that's a challenge right now. I don't know how I'm going to face it, but I know at some point I'm going to confront this and I'm going to overcome it.
Mhm.
And I know that now because I've had so much experience with overcoming things over and over and over and over again, to the point where it's like, okay, I may be in a little rut right now and I might feel like shit for a little bit, but I know, like, okay, I'm going to get over this. It's going to be no problem. And then on the other side of this, I'm going to be much stronger. And like, I look forward to the moments where I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Because I know it's also a point of expansion and growth for me, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And that to me, that's emotional stability right there. It's like being willing to go to the negative in those experiences that just suck. Like, it just feels not good. You feel like you're in over your head.
Yeah.
But you're not living in delusion where you're like, oh, I'm just going to think my way out of this with positivity. It's like, no, I'm going to confront this thing.
Yeah.
So I don't time loop and go back around in a circle. And it's not like sweeping it under the rug. It's like actually dealing with it.
Yeah.
And so that's really, yeah. And for anyone watching this, if you don't have friends and people in your network who are doing this kind of level of introspection and really being honest, like, it's disturbing the amount of positive thinkers that I see making Facebook statuses of like, if abundance is coming to you, type yes below. And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything?
Yeah.
Like, the people who are thinking like that are clearly, the starting point is lack. I don't know anyone who's really wealthy who's making statuses like that. Do you?
No.
It's like, yeah. And so that's also another indicator. So like, for who's watching this, start really looking at what are indicators where there's instability. Whether it's maybe you see it in others, because sometimes it's easier to see it in others than in ourselves, but
yeah.
Really looking at it within ourselves. And like you were saying, how you started to notice the detriment that your behavior was having on those around you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, actually, that just reminds me, a phenomenon that happens if you don't put on your oxygen mask. What happens as you lose oxygen, or you're deprived of oxygen, you actually start to become giddy. And you actually start to feel like everything's fine, everything's okay. I was watching a guy who did an experiment.
That's like happening on a mass scale right now.
Yeah. It's like they did this experiment where they just took out, they simulated as if he was flying at a high altitude and there was a loss of cabin pressure and, there was deprivation of oxygen. Mm-hmm. And they're telling him, hey, you got to put on your mask. Like, there's somebody in the room with them who has a mask on. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to put on your mask. And he's like, okay. But he's like, he can't actually do it. He's like, ugh. And they're like, you have to put on your mask or you're going to die. And he's like, I don't want to die. Mm-hmm. But he's not doing anything about it, right? And what I realized for me with this emotional stability is getting to the point where, like instead of feeling delirious and like, oh, everything's fine and giddy and happy, like now I'm seeing like the reality of things. I can actually be here and see the truth of things. It's like, those people who are saying, type yes if abundance is coming to you. Like, they might be well-meaning.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But, a lot of people, it's like you said, a lot of people are feeling that deprivation.
Yeah.
And they're not able to see the truth. They're not able to actually, like, be in reality and actually do something to help other people.
Yeah.
Instead, they're just spreading this, like, everything's okay.
Yeah, which is actually, like, making things worse. It's so fascinating to see how it's like they mean well, but it's really just this elaborate coping mechanism. It's actually causing other people to stumble. Yeah. So that's why we do this. That's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
Because to know what emotional stability looks like in others, and then to know what it feels like within yourself. Because then you can just boldly confront anything that you're faced with.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, you were saying, like, you may not exactly know how you're going to work through it, but you can keep looking at it and you can keep assessing it. And maybe you need to take a little break and like go on a walk or something to kind of play around with the idea in your mind or talk to somebody. But you realize the only way through is to go through.
Yeah.
And if you avoid it, you just time loop back and then you're just stuck.
Yeah. It's like a toll that you have to pass, right? It's like,
yeah.
You can't go past this road unless you interact with this toll or pay this fare.
Yeah.
Right?
And resolve it, like settle it.
Yeah.
Which, yeah. So, really, really look at that in your life. And I'm looking at this as all a reminder to myself. I realize like everything I'm telling other people is also just a reminder to me of what does that really look like right now to have that oxygen mask be on yourself. Because like there's so much shit happening right now and people making rash decisions. And I have a friend who works in like finance and helps people do retirement planning. Okay. And people are like cashing out all the money in their 401ks because they're like freaked out. And it's like, that's like one of those things, like you can't undo that.
And I'm sure they've lost a lot already. Cashing out at this time.
And then it's like, so because they just don't understand the reality of it. It's like, okay, the economy will rebound. But if you aren't in at that time, you get left behind. And then everything else, all the prices of everything go up. And so then you're playing catch up. And it's like this nasty cycle. So for us, like for the people who can really freaking hear this, like it's your responsibility to help those people who can't understand this. Because like we're in this together. Whether you like it or not, you're not living in a bubble. And we're all interconnected at a very deep level. And so you're either going to step up and help or
get left behind.
or get left behind or just be an evil mofo. Like,
we're leaving them behind.
No, it's like, I mean, times like this really get us an opportunity to really pause and reflect on like what actually makes life worth living. I mean, it's really sobering to look at. Like, I've heard some stories recently of like friends with people who end up like ending it because they don't feel a sense of any sort of hope in the future. And for all the people out there struggling right now with like depression and anxiety, like situations like coronavirus and being out of work for an extended amount of time is like it exacerbates all that shit going on inside. And like we're not here to downplay that. We're here to actually really look at that and be here to support others who don't have emotional stability. And to let you know that there are groups of us that are here to be those stable points. Because that is really that's real value to me. Any thoughts on that?
I think
always.
I 100% agree. Right now more than ever, people need that emotional stability because just look at how people respond to just getting bad news and then not being able to handle it or go throughout the rest of their day. I was talking with Abel yesterday, and we were talking about Steve Jobs and how he would get all this bad news just before going to do a press release, and he'd hear like, oh, we can't make the computer do this or whatever, and he'd be like, figure it out, and people are just bombarding him with all this negativity, right? Bad news, everything. And he would walk away, he'd go do the press release as if nothing wrong was happening. And he'd really give it his all. And I'm just thinking how many people are like that in those positions, at those top positions. They get bad news all the time. They hear about things not working in their favor all the time, and yet they still continue on and they're able to make those tough decisions and actually build their businesses to a really, really profitable world name or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
right? But how many of like just the average people individually would be able to do that? You can't even, for the most part, most people can't even handle the stress in their own life, which is like really like low level stress.
Mm-hmm.
But it comes from them not having that emotional stability within themselves. And then I would even go further to say, like, the reason why they don't have that emotional stability is they just don't understand. They're not able to process all of that information. It's like, if you have a math problem that
Mm-hmm.
like 1 + 1,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, that's easy. 2 × 3, like,
Mm-hmm.
that's easy. But then if I give you, like, I don't know, some calculus formula, and I tell you, you gotta, I don't know.
Yeah. Solve it.
You gotta solve this equation, and it's like all terms that you don't know.
Yeah.
That feels overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
It feel like you feel that
Mm-hmm.
when it's something that you don't know, right? And that's the same thing that's going on within people. It's like they just don't have the ability to do that kind of equation.
Yeah.
It's a social equation or emotional equation, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
and that makes them become emotionally unstable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And for me, what's been really helpful in that process has been, one was getting honest with myself, where I realized, damn, I'm emotionally unstable.
Yeah.
One thing early on, I had a few different people tell this to me over a weekend. It was when we first met back in Denver.
Okay.
And Kian told this to me. Avery told this to me. I know it was brought up again. I think Asif told this to me as well. They said, your financial stability is a direct reflection of your inner emotional stability. And my first thought was like, screw you. Because it was right.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to admit it because I thought I was pretty emotionally stable. But then I really looked at my life and it wasn't. But I was like you. I was like, oh, I'm like really good at being positive. I like read all these books on positivity. Man, you should see my journal. I have the coolest notes on being positive. But when you set the book down, when you close the journal, and when you actually have to face the thing that you don't want to face, what are your thoughts then? Then are you positive? Or then are you like, no, get it over with, quick,
Yeah.
let me go back to my positive bubble,
Yeah.
right? So that shit right there, that was step one for me, was getting actually honest with myself. But I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't know that there was a solution and that there were people who had actually walked through that themselves. And then that was the next step. So after I was getting honest that I'm like, damn, I'm actually more emotionally unstable than I thought I was. Then it was like meeting all you guys and realizing, oh shit, there's a whole group of people who are into this. They're cool people. They're not like doing any weird shit. Like, oh, you have to like, I don't know, like join some MLM or some shit. It's just like, no, they're just cool people who genuinely want to help. And they have a few principles that they operate from, which one of them being give as you want to receive. And that's what blew me away, is that like Kian, and when we first talked, it was like hours. And you're just like, yeah, dude, so like, what are you stuck on? I'm like, well, like this really sucks. You're like, okay, well, have you thought about it like this? I'm like, no, like, okay, that makes sense. You're like, yeah, okay, and then do these things, and then if you need help, like call me later this week or shoot me a text. I'm like, whoa. Yeah. I want everybody in the world to have this. This is like really freaking cool. So anyway, that's like a necessary process to go from one, being humble enough to realizing like, damn, I'm kind of emotionally unstable, then realizing, wait, there's other people out there who have walked this process, and we keep refining it. And then to actually make that decision myself to say, wait, I actually want to change something about this, because it had to get bad for me to actually change that. I had to hit some dark low points of being like so freaking pissed off and frustrated at myself for really just like continuing to not change.
Yeah.
But then I made that decision. And I know that that's what a lot of people are going through right now.
Yeah.
If they can look up between the video games and the Netflix and, all the shit of like, okay, shit, maybe this is a sign that I actually got to change something, because like, you have a glorious opportunity right now, we all do, to actually start making new connections and talking to different people. So,
Yeah. That's a good point.
We got a few minutes left here. What's your final remarks on this, Drake?
I would say if you are looking for some help in gaining emotional stability, reach out to us. You tagged me in this. Obviously, if you're watching this, you're seeing it on Mitch's channel as well. Reach out to us, and we'd love to share with you.
Yeah, 100%. Like, this is literally what we're here for, is because we realize that there's two future scenarios here. One is where nobody learns the lesson and we just keep freaking going towards this cliff, and then eventually we all fucking fall off the cliff and blow up. Like, I'm not kidding you. That's what's we're on. We're literally on track.
That's the path we're on. Yeah.
That's like, and if you try and deny that, let's freaking talk. I'm open. If you don't think we're going to a cliff, like, I want to hear why you're saying that, but don't come at us with your positivity bubble, because we're going to bust that bubble and then we'll work through it with you. But then there's another route forward that is where we all learn the lessons from this. Realize, damn, coronavirus just threw in our face everything we've been avoiding. And now we have an opportunity to start actually building a whole new level of culture and relationships and types of businesses and ecosystems of how we exchange value with each other, how we support each other, how we can look at new ways of doing politics, new ways of doing education, new ways of looking at money, and how we can support each other through difficulties and the good times. And so that Rick and I do every freaking day. And if you want to be part of that or just hear about it, reach out. It's on you. You can't reach out to all of you and just read your mind. So
That's true.
But yeah, awesome. Thanks for watching, everybody. There's a lot more where this came from. And put on that mask. And specifically, the mask is your emotional stability. If you want to wear your other mask to be corona-proof, that's cool too. But really look at what is the thing you're actually going to put on to assist yourself first, so then you can actually support others.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Peace.